And we're going to compare the number of kills by each of these, or not necessarily just cars, but vehicles in general, versus some movie characters, namely Michael, Jason, and Freddy, as well as serial killers who used vehicles to kill, and other films where the vehicle, driverless or not, killed people. We're going to see how these compare against Waymo, Uber, and Tesla, and driverless trucks. So, we're going to start with the driverless trucks. 0. There have been a couple of incidents where they thought it was the truck's fault, but it turned out that it was the driver's fault. It was a assisted driving truck, so the driver was supposed to stay awake and make sure the truck didn't screw up. And in one case, it's not certain what actually happened because the driver was killed, and in the second one, the driver fell asleep. So that was actually not valid. So there have been no driverless truck accidents, and I'm not sure how many years driverless trucks have been in operation, but they've been around for at least a couple of years now, if not more. I just didn't think to look it up until now. I'm not going to go back to that. So I was actually doing research on a video that I'm making about AIs, and just kind of coincidentally, the Claude AI mentioned that 0.6 versus 2.8 injury crash rate versus humans for Waymo. One source for Tesla had put it at 56, and another source said at least 65. And it said that all of the other ones, autopilot, enhanced autopilot, FSD supervised, 10. So 10 for all the others, 2 for Waymo, and the rest are for Tesla, which kind of makes you wonder, and I think I know partially. There have been some tests of Tesla, since Tesla uses cameras instead of LiDAR, under certain conditions where visibility is poor, Tesla will run into things and people repeatedly. So if you're expecting to be safe in a Tesla, or if you're walking or riding a bike or a motorcycle, or even driving a car in an area where there are Teslas and the weather is bad, you might want to consider just staying home, because there could be a Tesla that's going to slam into you when the visibility is bad. Good job, Musk. Why didn't he use LiDAR? He's cheap. And he has actually come out and said he's not going to use LiDAR even with the deaths. Now, so keep that in mind. So we're talking about 2 for Waymo, 56 for Tesla, and 10 for all of the others. But again, there is another one called TeslaDeaths.com that says 65 between 2013 and 2025. But I haven't bothered to research that. But it is pretty bad that Tesla is has that high of a record. So let's see, since Waymo is not worth worrying about, and the other kinds of driverless or assisted driving cars are not really something to worry about, we are going to focus on the other things here to see which fictional killers and real killers and fictional vehicles, with or without a driver, actually rack up more kills than Tesla. And what I'm going to do here is, to be fair, I'm going to go for Jason, Michael, and Freddy. I'm going to go through each movie and tell you how many kills, and then I'll give you the total. So I think that's fair because we're talking about basically lifetime kills by Tesla cars and those ugly looking things they call trucks. The Cybertruck, which it looks like something that would be in there. There was this old video game when I was young in the 1980s. I think it was that came out, and it was 3D, but it was all line drawings, and it was a vehicular um, game, and so you could see these vehicles. Everything was green lines, but 3D. So as the vehicle's turning, you can see, but only the lines. And I don't remember what that's called anymore. If anybody old like me happens to remember the name of that video game, I'm not interested in looking it up. It just popped into my head right now. So we're gonna start with the very famous movie, and I'm not looking at the book which preceded it for any of these. Um, Christine, in which a demon possessed car kills people. There are 14 deaths. So Christine is less dangerous. Even after being destroyed by a gang, it just reforms itself and continues killing the gang members. So 14 versus 56 to 65, or maybe even more. Then in and the Christine came out I think in the 80s, but I don't remember for sure. Duel from 1971, and I actually watched this movie, although not in 1971. I was way too young to have watched it then, but I did watch it eventually. It is, for some people, it would be a scary movie. I thought it was kind of interesting, but a little bit scary because I was pretty young at that time. I don't think it was later than 1980 when I watched it, but I could be wrong. It might have been as late as 84. But so this is a movie where a driver of a car is being chased by a guy in a Peterbilt truck, a Peterbilt tanker truck. And, at first, the driver thinks that this truck driver is going to, try to pass him. But then it tries to sideswipe him. And then it's, trying to, it's taunting him and scaring him. Finally, he pulls off. And he waits for a while, and then he starts driving again. And he thinks, because the truck did not stop. The truck kept going, but then the truck was waiting. The truck driver was waiting and catches up to him again. He finally does, if I remember correctly. Again, it's been a long time. He finally does pull over, and the truck driver follows him with his truck, and eventually the truck driver ends up being the victim. So that is a -1 score for Duel because the killer became the victim, but one kill. Tesla, you're not looking very good, but I don't know if you have any Peterbilt driverless trucks. Now, the next movie, keeping in mind 71 for the Duel. The next movie is called The Car. Very creative name. I'll grant them that. From 1977, and this is about a driverless Lincoln Continental Mark III that kills 14 people. Yeah, 14 people. Woo! Maximum Overdrive, another Stephen King book turned into a movie. It was not a particularly good movie. In this, Earth goes through the tail of a comet and all machines come to life and start killing people. 1986. Now, on screen, okay? Because we're talking about a global phenomenon. So globally, we're talking about billions of deaths, even in 1986. But in reality, on screen, only 26 deaths. However, if we were to, compare that movie versus the number of people that have been killed over time across the globe just by vehicles, The number might possibly be comparable. I mean, human-driven vehicles, but within that one movie, we're talking about billions of deaths. But on screen 26. Now, the next movie from 86 is The Wraith. And this is some kind of an alien that comes in a Dodge M4S Turbo. And it kills 6 people. Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. And then in 2007, Death Proof. Kurt Russell is this anonymous stunt driver who goes around killing women with his car. He has a 1970 Chevy Nova and a 69 Dodge Charger. In total, there are 8 people killed, 5 women, and then he's killed by a group of women, and then there are also 2 people killed off screen. So that's the official count, even for those but you don't have to count the 2 people off screen if you don't want to, but they were killed. Now, in 1960, The Hearse. And this is a movie where this guy is going after people with his hearse, and he manages to kill 2 people, and ultimately he also dies. And then in 2020, Super Hybrid. Now, it's not entirely clear but what kind of a car it is, because it's not really a car. This is actually either some kind of an ancient mimic creature that's lived forever on Earth, or however long on Earth, or it's an alien. But in any event, it looks like a car, an attractive, expensive car. So it attracts a lot of victims. So anybody that tries to get this car gets eaten by it. And in the movie, there are 6 deaths. So there are 4 people in this parking garage, the valets or whatever, or no, I'm sorry, mechanics. 4 mechanics are killed. Then the remaining mechanics manage to kill that alien. And or mechanic, actually. There's 1 remaining mechanic, I believe. I haven't actually seen this, so I might be wrong. But at the end of the movie, he is surrounded by more of those super hybrid alien, whatever, shape-shifting car thingies. They're not cars, really. They're shapeshifters, and they just learned that pretending to be an expensive car is a great way to get a meal from, car thieves. Man, I wish I could get one of those and put one in each city just to get rid of all the car thieves. Can you imagine how few, and also window breakers who are, robbing cars? Can you imagine how many people we'd get rid of? That would be astonishing. Now, the last one is not a movie. It was a short story written by King also. And this is called Mile 81. I read this several years ago. I thought it was interesting, so I brought it up to Gemini when I was doing the research on this. And this was put out in 2011. I forget the name of the book. The Book of Bad Deeds or something like that. And this is an alien that comes down to Earth, parks in a remote area, looks like a car, and it seems to be, it attracts attention because people think maybe there's somebody stranded. So people will pull over and come to the car to help. Now, what's really interesting about this is the victims. They walk up to the car. They're calling out to the car. They're trying to see if there's anybody inside, because the car there's engine noises, if I remember correctly. And at least at one point, if not more than once, because it's been years since I read it, one of the car doors opens. What's interesting about this is, as soon as anybody touches the car is like glue, and it turns kind of translucent, and the person is sucked into the car and eaten. Now, at the very end, there's a small group of people, adults and children, who pull up to the car, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody figures out a way to punish the car, and then it blasts off into outer space. So that was an interesting uh, King movie story. Now I know you're waiting for Jason, Freddy, and Michael, so I'm gonna do those, and then I'm gonna do some real statistics. So let's start with Jason. Jason Voorhees. Um, the first movie, Friday the 13th, from 1980, he didn't kill anybody. It was his mother, Pamela. She killed 9 people. So clearly he learned this from his mom. Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981. And I think I watched like 2 or 3 of these movies, and then I was like, it's just the same thing over and over again, so I stopped watching. Same with most other slasher movies. I get bored with them really fast because they're stupid, especially when the killer is the same person over and over again. So this was the first time Jason killed. He killed 9 people. Come on, Tesla, slow it down. In Part 3 in 82, he killed 12, and that's where he gets his hockey mask instead of wearing a burlap sack like in Part 2. In the final chapter, not, he kills 13 people, including 1 with a garden claw. In Part 5, because the final chapter was actually Part 4, they lied, in 1985. So final chapter, Part 4, was in 84. 85, 17 people were killed, but not by Jason. He was dead. The final chapter was called the final chapter because Jamie's character kills him, if I remember correctly. Because that was one of the few that I actually watched. But the killer was actually a paramedic named Roy Burns, and he was copycatting Jason Voorhees. In Part 6, Jason Lives, from 1986, they were just pumping these things out like the garbage they are. Jason is resurrected as an undead zombie, and he kills 18 people. Better, but still Tesla. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, 88. He kills 15 people, including 1 that he kills by slamming their sleeping bag with the person inside against a tree. Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 89. Okay? And he's on a cruise ship, and then he's in New York City. He kills 18 people. Uh-oh. We have reached the top number of kills for tying with Part 6. And then Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, in 1993. His spirit possesses other people. And through that possession kills 20 people. Still not, it's not quite as good as Tesla's record. Jason X, 2001. He's set into space, including a liquid nitrogen face smash. He also indirectly causes a space station crash, which would add hundreds more off-screen deaths, but his direct individual kill count is 21. Off-screen, hundreds. Now that's finally Jason has exceeded Tesla. In 2003, Freddy and Jason had to work some issues out that they had out. It didn't work out so well for Freddy because he only got 1 kill and Jason got all the other kills. And there is at least a couple of YouTubers who use AI to make simulations of super creatures like these that fight each other. And Jason is the winner because he, if I remember correctly, yeah. Anyways, then in 2009, Friday the 13th remake, he kills 13. And then that total now, that's 157 kills. Now, let's keep in mind here, we're talking about 2013 to 2025. So 2025 minus 2012. Oh, come on. I didn't want that one. I'm pulling up the wrong thing. Okay. 2025 minus 2012, because we want to know the actual number of years. 13 years. So if we take 157 kills divided by 13 years, that's 12 per year. but he didn't use a vehicle. So I can say that honestly, Jason is tougher than Tesla. Even when he was alive, he was tougher than Tesla. All right, Friday the 13th was that series. Um, or sorry, yeah, this series is the Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched the first one that and when I was in university. That was kind of scary. Well, anyways, I'm not going to tell you the total number of kills right now, of course. Uh, Freddy's more of he's not really like an artiste, but he only attacks people in dreams, which makes him significantly more limited than Jason. But on the flip side, you have to remember Jason only appears in most of those movies like once a year or something like that. So Jason is in a way even more limited. But if we extrapolate that Freddy is dead, and that's why he only attacks in dreams, that if Freddy were able to escape Elm Street and go to other places, the number of kills he could get from dreaming people would be a lot higher. But he also generally only targets young people, not adults. Now, in the first movie, A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, he killed only four, including Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp managed to survive and is still the same abusive self, who's an amazing actor. Amber Heard wasn't the only one who was guilty. She was just more guilty than Johnny, and Johnny was better at acting in court. In part two, Freddy's Revenge in '85, there were only two people that he managed to kill because he physically possesses somebody named Jesse and kills Coach Snyder and Ron Grady. Now, in addition, there is a third kill, but that one was not actually by Freddy. People panicked at the pool party, so one person was trampled to death. But that was not his kill. We can't count that. Part three, Dream Warriors. This was kind of a goofy one. It certainly kind of turned me off to the series because it was. I mean, in a way, it was great because it took advantage of the what you can do in dreams. So it was very different in that respect. But it was kind of goofy because of that plus the humor that Freddy uses when he's stalking and killing people. So he kills six dreamers, and one or I don't remember how many of them survive. It's been a long time since I watched that one, but the remaining Dream Warriors managed to kill him, or at least temporarily get rid of him. And then in part four, the Dream Master in '88, because that was '87, he kills six in a. Uh, uh, and one of them is killed in a cockroach hotel transformation trap. I didn't see that one. In part five, The Dream Child in '89, there was a motorcycle fusion death and the comic book paper shredder. There were only three kills. Kind of weak. Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare in '91. He kills only three: Carlos, Spencer, and John Doe. He also apparently killed his wife, but that was a flashback to when he was alive. And we don't know how many children he killed before the people of his town killed him because they found out. The reason he looks so horrible is because when the townspeople found out that he was the child killer, they burned him alive. That's why he looks horrible. And the reason he has the glove with the knives on it is that was what he used to kill in life. Now, in Wes Craven's New Nightmare in '94, he killed four. But it wasn't truly Freddy. It was actually a meta demon in the form of Freddy. It kills two special effects crew members, a babysitter, and Chase Porter. In Freddy versus Jason, like I said, he only manages to kill one person. And I'm sorry, I misspoke when I was talking about Freddy versus Jason being, them fighting each other. I was confusing that with a video I'd seen where they were fighting directly. And in Freddy versus Jason, so Freddy kills one person, Jason kills all the others. That's 2003. A Nightmare on Elm Street remake in 2010 has 13 deaths, and that is the top number of deaths. And then in total, between all of these kills, 42 only. So he's he's weak even compared to Tesla. Oh my gosh. Even Christine did better than Freddy Krueger. So as fake serial killers or supernatural super killers go, Freddy Krueger is near the bottom of the list. All right. Oh, by the way, the historical fictional children that he murdered when he was alive is 20. So if you count those off-screen deaths, because we don't see them, that's a total of 62, but that's still pretty weak compared to Jason. Let's see how he compares to Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise. Now, if you are familiar with Michael Myers, you already know the answer to this. So he, unlike Jason or Freddy, he was always the sole primary killer in all but one of the movies. One I liked. Well, I've only watched a small number of these movies because, again, I get really irritated with this repetitiveness and the just stupid bloodshed. But the only one that was not with Jason was Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, which I actually went to a theater to watch. Regrettably, it's a waste of money. But I think I went to a dollar theater or something like that. Let's see. Halloween 1978, 5 confirmed kills, including his sister and a mechanic, Annie, Bob, and Linda. In Halloween 2 in 81, he kills 10 inside a hospital. In Halloween 3, the Season of the Witch, 82, he doesn't kill anybody. I'm not sure how many were killed because it didn't even bother to tell me the kill count for that. Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers in 88. He wakes from a decade-long coma and targets police, vigilantes, and townsfolk. He kills 18. Freddy, you are a schlep. Well, actually not a schlep. You're lazy. Schlep would be like a hard worker. Michael, you're a hard worker. Jason, you're a hard worker. Freddy, you're kind of a lazy butt. Get with the program. So then he's a little bit more chill in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. He only manages to kill 13 people with farm implements, including pitchfork, scythe, and garden tiller. Ew, that hurts. If you ever think of a garden tiller, it's like separate wheels on one axle, and each wheel has these long spikes, so you'd have to like rake it across somebody's body. The spikes are pretty long too. Ooh, that one would hurt. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers in 95. He kills everybody with a machete, doctors and cultists. So he doesn't discriminate, at least. He kills 23 people. Halloween H2O, 20 years later. I think I saw this one also in 1998. It's a direct sequel to part 2, and skips parts 4 to 6, including an early cameo kill by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, in which he only kills 6 people. So yeah, he was getting kind of lazy. Halloween Resurrection in 2002, he kills 11 on an internet reality TV show inside his childhood home. That makes sense. Halloween 2000 remake, it was a remake made by Rob Zombie. With a massive, physically imposing Michael that has 29. Oh, by the way, I forgot. I think in at least the movie where Jason goes into outer space, he gets some upgrades that make him more powerful, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that somewhere on one of those killer versus killer videos on YouTube. And then Halloween 2018, a soft reboot that serves as a direct sequel to the first one from 1978. He kills 19. Halloween Kills 2021. It's his pinnacle. It's his professional apex. He slaughters an entire squad of firefighters and a neighborhood mob, killing 30. I think that actually beats Jason, except for the space station. Yes, the space station one was one of the ones where Jason had some enhancements. Halloween Ends 2022. He shares his killing spree with his protege named Corey Cunningham, but he only manages to kill 6. I don't know how many Corey killed. So total of any individual franchise slasher series, he has killed the most, 198. Now, again, if you count the 100 or so or hundreds on the space station, then it would be Jason, because Jason would have killed probably at least 260, maybe 3, 4, 500. We don't really know. So yeah, that is that. Now we're going to talk about Uber. These are not, of course, driverless crashes. 2017 to 2018, 107 deaths occurring across 97 crashes. 2019 to 2020, 101 deaths occurring across 91 crashes. 21 to 22, 153 deaths occurring across 127 fatal crashes. And approximately 58% of the victims are third parties, including pedestrians, cyclists, and occupants of other vehicles. The remaining 42% are half Uber drivers and half Uber passengers. So, yeah, you got a 21% chance of being killed while riding in an Uber as a passenger or as the driver, versus 58% chance of being killed as a third party. Go Uber. I didn't look up Lyft. I forgot to look up Lyft. But I'll try to remember. I'll do that right now. I'll tell you later, though, because I have some other stuff I want to report to you. Now, some of them were speeding, alcohol impaired driving, wrong way driving. So speeding was 39%, alcohol impaired was 33%, and wrong way driving was 13%. There was only one autonomous vehicle kill in Uber's history in 2018. A modified self-driving Uber Volvo XC90 struck and killed a pedestrian in Tempe, Arizona. Maybe the first recorded pedestrian death by an autonomous vehicle in U.S. history. And then Uber gave up. They shut down their self-driving program. Probably, for the best. Let's see. Okay. So now we're going to get to the real life serial killers. An Uber driver named Jason Dalton. Now, he didn't use his car to kill people. He used his car as his transportation. But he went on a shooting rampage in 2016 in Kalamazoo. He actively picked up regular Uber passengers between his attacks. He shot 6 people and killed them, and wounded 2 others before being arrested. So can't blame Uber for that one. Now, let's find out about Lyft's record. So Lyft has a smaller number of deaths, but they also have a smaller market share. So if you look at market share, it actually has a higher death rate than Uber. When adjusting for total miles driven, Uber's motor vehicle fatality rate is roughly 31% lower than Lyft. Uber sits at an average of 0.87 deaths per 100 million miles traveled, whereas Lyft averages 0.94 deaths per 100 million miles. They're slightly below the overall U.S. national average for traditional driving. Now, the shared demographics, 58% of the fatalities are third parties, pedestrians, cyclists, and occupants of other cars, rather than the passengers and driver. And Uber has a historically has a record of 40%, 46% higher rate of physical assaults initiated by drivers. Lyft's latest metrics noted a sharp 185% spike in fatal physical assaults occurring on its platform, recording 23 deaths. But it doesn't specify here whether that was by the driver or not. It's implying it, but it's not saying it. There's also a contributing factor called deadheading. This is a driver cruising around public roads with the app turned on while watching it to match with a passenger. And because of that distracted driving, it accounts for up to 40 to 50% of rideshare drivers' total time on the road. But it doesn't. Distracted driving accident risks spike by 17% for both companies. So if you are ever driving for a company, don't don't look at your phone while you're trying to find your passenger. Call your passenger if you can't find them, but don't. Okay. Now let's get to we've done the movies. We've done Mile 81. We've done Jason, Freddy, and Michael. Now let's look at a couple of serial killer incidents. Now, these are in America. I didn't search worldwide, so I'm not sure if there are vehicular serial killers, although I know that there are many serial killers that travel around the country picking up people and murdering them because they're hitchhikers, they're vagrants, they're easy victims. And there are other people that look for homeless people and bums and things like that because they are highly disposable, because they're not tracked very well by society. They tend to be isolated from society, and by the time somebody notices that they're dead, well, it's way too late. No, I am not advertising this. Sorry, I meant to move it out of camera range, but I forgot. I'm not advertising it. So the first one was back in 2020. Lawrence Paul Mills the third, I think. He was driving a 2006 Chevy Trailblazer. He ran over two people, and there's at least one other unknown person that they think he killed. So a track record of at least three people in 1 year. And then Olga Rutterschmidt and Helen Golay would drive around, I guess, together. Apparently, they were a team in either the one's 99 Mercury Sable or the other's 99. Oh, I forgot what it was. Hold on. I forgot to write that one down. Okay. I'm sorry. They only used one vehicle. It was just the 99 Mercury Sable station wagon. So in 1999, they ran over they killed a homeless man. In 2005, they killed another homeless man. They were doing it to commit insurance fraud, and they were called the killer grandmothers or killer grannies because they were elderly women. So, and again, like I said, trucks haven't killed anybody. And the last statistic I want to share with you is human on human deaths overall worldwide. Okay. So if you keep in mind the number of deaths that have happened over the last decade plus by assisted and driverless vehicles of 60 some deaths at least, keep that in your head. Okay. It makes Waymo, Uber, Tesla, and all of these other companies look like saints. I've really been picking on Uber, sorry, not Uber, Tesla a lot in this movie, and not movie, video, and I do believe that they deserve it because of their reckless attitude of insisting on using cameras when cameras are intrinsically inferior to other ways to navigate your environment. Okay, they deserve the criticism. They deserve the criticism from other reasons as well. But this video is just about deaths because Musk doesn't want to use LiDAR. So, per year, 20 to 50 million people are injured by vehicles driven by humans. And 1.12 to 1.16 million are killed. Let me just ask about just the US. Now, I ask about vehicles, so I'm not specifying cars, trucks, motorcycles, scooters, or anything else. So, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, an average of 36 to 43,000 people are killed every year in the United States by human driven vehicles. Breaking that down a bit, last year it's an estimated 36,640 deaths, which is a 6.7% increase from 2024. And then in 2024, sorry, decrease, not increase. 2024 was 6.7% worse. And this is validated, not an estimate, of 39,254 deaths. In 2023, 41,025 deaths. And in 2022, 42,795 deaths. So I don't know why the number of deaths are going down. Is it because the tariffs are making it harder for people to be able to afford cars? Are people choosing not to have vehicles? Are people suddenly not watching their phones constantly? Because many times when I'm driving, I see people, especially young people, but sometimes old people, looking at their phone. They're like, and they're spending more time looking at the phone than they are the road. So I'm imagining that some of the people I've seen doing that are now dead or have been in the hospital or have killed or injured somebody else because they're on their phones so much. For a while there, I was having a problem with that too because I was using Gas Buddy and I really wanted to contribute to Gas Buddy to enter in gas prices. So I was a little bit hazardous for a little while, but I broke that habit as quickly as I could and stopped doing that. And now I barely use Gas Buddy because they went to a paid only system, and the amount of money I save by using Gas Buddy is less than the monthly cost of paying into, having a membership. So I just use it to find gas stations now. I don't get to save any money unless that gas station has a deal, which is what I'm always looking for. Okay, so an average of roughly 100 to 120 Americans lose their lives on the road every single day. Motor vehicle collisions currently rank as the number 2 leading cause of death for children and young adults across the country. Think about that. Number 2 cause of death for children and young people, young adults. If that doesn't give you pause to, number 1, be more careful when you're driving, to watch out for children running out into the streets. Watch out for children behind you when you're backing up. And teach your children when they're driving, they're not using their phone. When a few years ago, I was working at this company and I was leaving the company and I needed to tell my boss something. And the company was right across from a high school. And rather than pulling over because there was a lot of traffic and there wasn't somewhere to pull over immediately, and I didn't want to forget because I tend to be forgetful, especially if I'm driving. I knew I would forget by the time I got home. So I was just kind of, trying to, well, mostly I was trying to speak to my phone to, narrate the message for my boss, but it kept on pulling up the wrong phone number over and over and over again. And it was really pissing me off. So I spent way more time than I needed to just trying to get it to choose the right recipient. And so it turned out that a cop saw me and got behind me. And after I went through the stoplight, pulled me over and gave me a ticket for distracted driving. And because it was a high school during school hours, I was also going 25 over the speed limit because it was school hours and it's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit during school hours. So I took a distracted driving course, which waived the penalty for distracted driving, but I still had to go to court about the distracted driving thing and going 25 over. And they reduced the penalty to instead of I don't remember what kind of a misdemeanor that was, maybe the top class or something, but they reduced it to the most minor misdemeanor, and they reduced the number of points off, and because they reduced the number of miles I was driving over. I actually was called up by the lawyer that was for the city, um, and he talked to me about it, and he offered me a deal, saying that if you agree not to plead not guilty, then I will reduce it the amount of miles over the limit that you're driving by this much, and that will take it from this kind of a misdemeanor down to this kind of misdemeanor, and so on. And like I said, I already watched the video, and I'll tell you why I mentioned this in the first place in just a second. And so when I got in front of the judge, I said, I'd already asked the lawyer if this was okay with him. I pled not guilty. I'm sorry, not guilty. No contest. And the reason I pled no contest was because I don't know at what point the police officer recorded me going 25 over. So I don't know if that number, I believe the number was valid, but I wasn't able to say for certainty to the judge. I was trying to be honest. And I explained this to the judge as well. I honestly don't know what speed I was driving when he tagged me with his laser. So I'm pleading no contest. And I did offer to the court at that time that I said I'm a YouTuber, small channel, and if you don't mind, I would like very much to put that video on my channel because it really impacted me, and it genuinely did. I wasn't BSing the judge. I was serious because I watched this, and there are these true life stories about people who have been injured or at least pulled over while driving distracted with their phone or injured. And there was one, I think, story where a girl had been pulled over or been injured, and then she didn't learn her lesson, and she was killed while driving using her phone. And it just really hit me, because it wasn't like really super graphic, but there was enough to really make me reassess the importance of using my phone while I'm driving. So I try not to ever use my phone except for the map, or hands-free driving, phone calls. Because sometimes I get phone calls, um, and but yeah. Um, so that the reason I mentioned that is just because that had such a huge impact on me. Of course, financially, and also I did not like being in court. It's the first time I've ever been called into court as the defendant. The second time happened last year, and that was actually because my landlord had screwed me out of my security deposit, but I had shown up late for the case because I put it in my schedule wrong somehow. And so I got pulled back into court by my landlord because he wanted me to pay for all of the lawyer's fees for that first visit where I hadn't shown up on time because I missed it completely. The court was already closed. So he felt he was entitled to my money back because I had done it deliberately to waste his time and make him angry and stuff. It turned out to be bad for him. He got no money back. I didn't give you money back either. Still don't have my security deposit. So now I wanted to talk about the ranking of countries because we were talking about how many people die every year in the United States. I wanted to talk about how other countries ranked, but for some reason the list that Google pulled up for me um, has a used a different ranking system in which it says 12 to 14 deaths per 100,000 people. Uh, and and that sounds really bad, but that means that America is not even in the top 15 countries. Uh, so let me ask, where does the U.S. rank internationally? So based on per 100,000 people, it ranks 110th out of 183 countries globally. So I guess the other countries that are not listed, there's no data or they don't drive, maybe. Um, however, out of 34 highly developed nations within the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, the U.S. has the highest traffic fatality rate. Wow. Trump always talks about how he's going to make America great. How's he going to fix this so we are last on the list of traffic fatality rates in the OECD? I think that would be a worthy goal, don't you? So it makes it more 3 times more dangerous to drive in the U.S. than other typical developed nations. So when you come to America, don't drive. And I'm pretty sure there are some places that are worse than others. Like when I drive to visit people in Milwaukee and I go through Chicago, people in Chicago, they're like on crack or something. They do not drive nicely at all. And I've met people that live in Chicago and they talk about how nice it is. I'm sorry, you're all, you need to pay attention to what's happening in your city. Chicago is a mess. All right, so the top 15 countries. Now we're talking about the number of deaths per 100,000 people annually. So these deaths are not 50 deaths per year. These are 50 times 100,000. So 50, sorry, it's 5 million or 50 million or whatever. Anyways, I'm not that great at math. The top ranking country is the Dominican Republic. I didn't expect that, honestly. Um, Apparently, it's got high density and there's a lot of unregistered drivers and it's a very reckless culture. So 64.6 per 100,000. 64.6. So that's, what is that? 6.46 million, I guess. Okay, number 2 is Zimbabwe. Poorly maintained highways, lack of street lighting, vehicle failures. 41.2 out of 100,000. Sorry, per 100,000. Number 3 is Venezuela. Trump, did you fix Venezuela when you took over their oil fields from them? By the way, Venezuela is so far has gotten almost none of the money from the oil sales that Trump has done. In fact, the money's in Qatar. How does that work? Qatar gives Trump an airplane. American taxpayers pay to renovate the airplane, which still is not up to the standards of Air Force One, because Trump focused on luxury and appearance instead of safety. And he's going to take it when he leaves office and put it in his Donald J. Trump library, presidential library. How is it that Venezuela oil money goes to Qatar and Qatar gives him an airplane and he gets to keep? Okay, If you don't understand what kind of corruption that is, you are definitely blind. So, okay, getting back to this list. Number 3 is Venezuela, 39 per 100,000 because of deteriorating infrastructure, severe lack of emergency post-crash care as well. Number 4 is Liberia, which was a country that was made by, I believe, America for the purpose of sending all black people to it during Jim Crow. 38.9. Unpaved roads, minimal traffic law enforcement, heavy pedestrian traffic. So probably a lot of dead pedestrians. Number 5, Eritrea, which used to be part of Ethiopia. 37.9. Strict fuel rationing along, I don't know how, yeah, oh, probably lots of vehicles running out of gas. Alongside poorly regulated commercial transit. That's, the commercial vehicles. Number 6, Guinea, which is, if I remember correctly, Guinea is in, is it Africa or is it South America? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't need to know the world's geography. It's not important. 37.4. Massive congestion of older, imported, human-driven cars. Number 7 is Thailand. So all you people who want to go to Thailand, remember, you are on the list of deaths. As a passenger or as a walker, be careful. It can also happen in Indonesia. I know from having lived in Indonesia. They're pretty reckless there. 36.2 per 100,000. Massive volumes of vulnerable motorbike traffic mixed with high-speed highway speeds. Same problem in Indonesia. Lots of motorbikes and lots of reckless motorbike driving. Lots of car reckless driving as well. I was going down a mountainside on hairpin curves, and there was this guy behind me that was not patient, and he sped past me right before a curve, could not see if there was traffic coming, and still went anyways. Yeah, it's very, very risky. Number 8, Malawi, 35. Poor separation between fast vehicles and unlit rural pedestrians. Number 9, Libya, 34. Damaged roads and compromised traffic enforcement following regional conflicts. Number 10, Haiti, 31.3. Chaotic transit networks, lack of vehicle inspections, and damaged infrastructure. Number 11, Guinea-Bissau, 30.5. High concentration of overloaded public transport vans. Number 12, Syria, 29.9. Infrastructure decay due to wartime damage to roads and signage. Number 13, Dominican Republic. Apparently, it says Dominica on here, but I've never heard of a country called Dominica, so I'm assuming it's the Dominican. Wait a second. Huh? Okay, maybe there is a country or island called Dominica? Can somebody help me out there? I'm not going to look it up. Hazardous, winding, mountainous roads, vulnerable to weather washouts. Oh, and I'm sorry. It's tied with Syria. So really, it's not 12 and 13. They're both 12. So Syria has infrastructure decay due to weather, wartime damage to roads and signage. So they're tied at number 12 with 29.9 per 100,000 deaths. 13, Lesotho, 28.2. High altitude mountain passes lacking standard safety guardrails. So similar problem to Dominica, wherever that is. 15, Kenya, 28.2. Blending of high speed, 14. Number 14, blending of high speed long haul trucks with pedestrian heavy rural markets. The safest countries, Norway, Sweden, and Iceland, rank at the absolute bottom of the global death list, sustaining microscopic rates of 2 to 2.8 deaths per 100,000 inhabitants, not deaths. Per 100,000 inhabitants, thanks to strict Vision Zero infrastructure design. Whatever that means, I'm very curious. In fact, I'm actually going to look that up. What is Vision infrastructure designs? If you know, pause the video right now and put a comment explaining what it is. Okay, Vision Zero is an international road safety philosophy based on a single core principle. No loss of life on public roadways is acceptable or inevitable. First launched in Sweden in '97, it rejects the traditional view that car crashes are unavoidable accidents. Instead, it treats traffic deaths as predictable, preventable systemic failures. So we're shifting the blame here. Um, Traditional traffic safety places the responsibility entirely on the road user, teaching pedestrians to look both ways or telling drivers to pay attention. Vision Zero reverses this. But notice it says road user, not driver. That means anybody on the road. Vehicle, bike, on foot, on a skateboard, on skates, whatever. So Vision Zero acknowledges that humans are inherently fragile and will always make mistakes. Therefore, the infrastructure itself must be designed to absorb those human errors so that a simple mistake does not result in a fatal injury. So they do speed reductions and traffic calming with they reduce the width of streets, multi-lane streets, to forces drivers to slow down. They have speed cushions and chicanes, which I think are raised humps, speed bumps, um, which I hate. There are speed bumps in Cincinnati, and I hate those things. Um, they're very, very annoying, especially if you are a lowrider driver. Compact intersections, tightening the curb radius at corners. So they have to make slow, deliberate 90-degree turns. Physical separation of road users, protected bike lanes, pedestrian refuges and bulb outs, raised crosswalks, re-engineering intersections, modern roundabouts, scramble crosswalk, stops all traffic in all directions at once. I've seen that on videos. I wondered about that. So you'll actually see passing pedestrians crossing every which way, even diagonally across the intersection, because everybody is stopped. Leading pedestrian intervals. Traffic lights wait 3 to 5 seconds before the vehicular traffic gets a green light. So it allows pedestrians to establish themselves in the crosswalk where they are highly visible before cars begin turning. Does it work? Yes, it does. And some US cities have adopted it. Okay, let's find out a little bit about that. Over 50 US cities have adopted that, including New York City, San Francisco, Austin, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Boston, Portland, and Washington, D.C. When I drove through Chicago last year, I did not see a difference on the highway that goes from Ohio up into Milwaukee. So, yeah, I didn't see any difference at all. Also, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Florida, Raleigh, North Carolina. Oh, Milwaukee has even announced a 26% drop in road fatalities since it launched its infrastructure push. Hoboken, New Jersey, Madison, Wisconsin, Belmont, North Carolina. Actually, I see one thing where they near a corner they'll put this island of plants. So you can't park there, and it makes it harder to go around the corner. I've seen that in Cincinnati. So Cincinnati apparently has done that too. What are the overall decreases in zero death cities? Decreases in of death and injury. Vision Zero, sorry. Okay, so decreases generally range from 12% to 100% for deaths, while serious traffic injuries drop by 15 to 86% in targeted redesign areas. Minor and moderate injuries sometimes are not changed or sometimes even increased due to the sheer volume of vehicles on the road. So Hoboken, 100% reduction in deaths. 18% in overall injury crashes, and 62% reduction in serious life-altering injuries. Congratulations, Hoboken, New Jersey! New York was the first city to adopt it, the first big city, anyways. Over its first decade of implementation from 2013 to 2023, it achieved a 12% decrease in overall traffic deaths and 45% reduction in pedestrian fatalities. Injuries, staggering 60% decrease in pedestrian and cyclist deaths and serious injuries. Austin, it doesn't give a number, but it says the number plummeted where they've actually done it. Injuries have showed over 10 years showed an 86% reduction in fatal and serious injury crashes and 22% drop in other injuries, compared to a 1% increase citywide. Madison, Wisconsin, deaths by more than 58%. Orlando, Florida, by nearly 40%. Seattle, Washington, by 18% in serious crashes. It doesn't say deaths. So it works. If you want to see less deaths and injuries because of vehicles, encourage your city council to change the way streets are laid out with Vision Zero. And more parents will not lose their children. And also, remember, teach your children not to drive while phoning. There have been tests that show that driving while you're using your phone is like driving drunk. Yeah. So anyways, I started out silly, got serious here. Sorry about that, but, I wanted to be robust about this, so this wasn't, this had something for everybody. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks for watching. I need to ask for your help. On December 11th, 2024, Amazon fired me under false pretenses, and the 17th, I had surgery for the injury that occurred at Amazon that Amazon and Cedric refused to take responsibility for. I'm unemployed, so my financial situation is a bit of a problem right now. If you would like to help me, there are some things you can do. Number one, you can like, subscribe, share, comment, and turn on notifications on my channels. Number two, if you'd like to give a one-time donation, and please don't do this if you can't afford it, you can, on the Glenn's Fast Reviews channel, do a super thanks. Number three, if you would like to help me on a monthly basis, you can become a member on Glenn's Fast Reviews, or you can go to patreon.com/GLENNMII and become a member there. Thank you so much for your support.